Okay. Okay, I would like to call the Seldovia Planning Commission to its virtual meeting on Wednesday, May 6, 2020 at 6:03 p.m. Roll call, please.
Yes, Ms. Carluccio,
Here.
Mr. Lathine,
Here.
Ms. Gruber,
Here.
Mr. Forsberg.
Here.
Thank you. And we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I move for approval of the agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and second. Is there any discussion on the agenda or changes? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. And now on to item D, approval of minutes from the March 11th, 2020 meeting.
Move for approval of the minutes of the March 11th meeting.
May I have a
Any
second?
Second?
Okay, is there any
Okay.
discussion? Is there any discussion on the minutes? I have gone over with Heidi just 3 grammatical changes on the minutes that don't actually change the content. And if you want me to list them, I will, but if not, is there any discussion on the minutes?
No.
Nope. No.
Is there any objection to the minutes?
No.
Seeing none, we will approve the minutes. Can I ask, first of all, does somebody have wind chimes or something in the background?
I don't see Heidi's face anymore.
Heidi, are you there?
I have
I'm
wind
here.
chimes and you hear our wind chimes. So I closed
Oh.
the door. Hopefully that.
Okay,
stops
because
it.
I've got earphones on so I could make sure I hear better, and I'm like, thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounded good for a little bit.
Yeah, they did sound good. I just wanted to listen to them instead of going on with the meeting. So the next item is public comments regarding items not on the agenda. Is anybody on? Heidi?
We do not have anybody from the public with us this evening.
Okay. And public hearings prior notice, we have none. And under item G1, discussion of ordinance draft title 18, land use matrix and definitions updated. Staff, please. Heidi.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Starting on page 9 of your packet is the updated ordinance with all the changes that were previously discussed. We've had a chance to look over it, but all of the lists, all the items, all the definitions that had lists of examples have now been changed to say such as but not limited to semicolon, and then we'll list out those examples. And for example, if you start on page 12, definition 13, business consumer services, you'll see that phrase is in there, and then it follows again in definition 14 as well, that it's such as but not limited to dressmaking, tailoring, barbers, and beauty for business personal services. And this carries on through all of the definitions. Also, the definition last time for storage facility no longer says occupants, it now says consumer or consumers. And I'm just going to that. On page 23, definition 102. So that was a change that was requested to be made. It now says renting or leasing of storage space to consumers who are to have access to such facility for the purpose of storing or removing personal property. And then if you carry on through to, I wanted to talk briefly on page 24 under definition 113 variance. I didn't actually end up changing that definition because it meets word for word the intent of what variance is in our code. So I did put at the end of that definition C SMC chapter 18.76 because that's where variance is. But our variance does say, our variance section does say to provide relief when the literal enforcement would deprive a property owner of the reasonable use of his or her real property. So I left that how that stood. And then if you carry on through into the districts, starting on page 25 and then go to 26, I used that same format under that first residential general district of purpose, permitted uses, conditional uses, minimum lot size and width, parking area, lot coverage, building setback, building height, signage, and visibility at intersections. A few of the districts have different sections involved that are not in the residential section, but I kept it to the same or very similar format. So as you carry through the districts, you'll see in yellow, starting on page 29, I moved conditional uses up into that section, into that order, and then reformatted the numbers, moved visibility at intersections to the bottom. And I carried this through all of the districts in the packet. And I believe that was all the changes that were requested and where we are at with this ordinance draft.
Thank you. We'll bypass public presentation since no one is here from the public. And if that changes at any time, Heidi, you can let me know. And move on to commissioner comments.
This is Chris. I'd like to make a comment. I think we've massaged this to fairly well, and we ought to move on and send it to the council.
Other comments?
I agree. The only thing in reading it over again, and I apologize for this, I didn't catch it before. I think it's transient merchant is listed in 101, and it's also listed under vending, E. And I was just wondering if that was a typo that we could just clear up, or if there was a reason for it to be listed in both places.
Madam Chair, I can speak to that if you would
Yes,
like.
please.
Yes, that is, and I'll go back to that, to the page she's speaking of. On page 24 is that transient merchant. And then it is also under mobile vendor, or I mean, sorry, under vending. And I left it in there both so that it is included under vending, but it's also its own definition if needed. But we could straighten that up if everybody else wanted. I just felt that it qualified for both areas to be its own definition, but it's also under vending.
Okay.
Do you have anything else, Kathleen?
No, that was just my only question with what I saw.
I guess I'm actually wondering though, if we do need to have it twice. What was the rationale behind that, Heidi?
I guess it was that I was thinking that you could have a transient merchant who was their own individual that may not need a vending license, or you could have somebody under vending who was also a transient merchant. But now that you say that and I think of it, we could just have it in one, I suppose. I mean, they could just be vending. What do you, it's up to you guys.
Anybody have any comments or thoughts on that?
So there's a difference between somebody vending here and somebody coming from somewhere else? Is there different rules or licenses or what?
You did mention license, Heidi. Can you answer that?
Yes, so under the transient merchant, that definition says any person, partnership, firm, or corporation, whether a resident of the city or not, who engages in a temporary business. And then it explains, and then it goes on further into that definition. I won't read it all out, including vehicles for hire. Well, in our business code and our business title, we require a business license, but for certain businesses, we also require a vending license. So or a vending permit, if they're on city property, they meet the certain requirements asked of them. Like when you see the tents by Lollipop Park, they have a vending permit and a business permit. Whereas a transient merchant may not necessarily need a vending permit. But I'm trying to think of an instance where they wouldn't.
Like the veggie truck?
Because we don't require a vending permit for businesses that aren't on city property.
Oh, yeah.
But I may have to think about that one a little bit more.
I think that I think maybe we do need to we need to make a decision whether it goes one place or the other. And if so, if there is a difference between the two, then it shouldn't be exactly the same definition. To be honest with you, I really haven't thought about it and I don't know whether.
Yeah, I have thought about it, but I guess when I read the bottom of the definition when it talks about within the city by operating door to door, street corner or similar basis, or with no fixed locations or office, or from a location out of doors or in quarters that are easily movable, such as a temporary leased area or space, motor vehicle, trailer, or tent, includes peddlers, solicitors, itinerant merchants, and vendors. I guess I was considering the fact that somebody could be a transient merchant and not be a vendor, but transient merchants can be vending. Does that make sense? They can be their own, or they can be under vending.
So you brought it up, Kathleen. What do you think?
Now that she's explained it, I understand why it's in both places. I don't know. I mean, would it be that important to the city to enforce that? I mean, what point if they were just like, I'm just a transient merchant, I'm not a vendor. I guess I kind of agree with Polly, like what's the difference in definition?
I see what you're saying. And now that I've had a little bit of more time to think about it. What I think we could do is we could clean up transient merchant under vending and define that as a transient merchant is somebody who meets the definition above, but for vending purposes is on city property, and and then define out what that means as a vendor, and I can change that.
That sounds
Okay.
awesome.
Okay, and Roger?
Oh, I think, yeah. That part I think should work, huh? And the rest of it looks pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
Everything looks,
I would,
Pretty
do you
clean.
have anything else you wanted to add?
oh, to the whole thing, no. I'm good.
I have a couple things. Sorry. Number 39, garage residential. This is just maybe a little picky, but second last line, garages normally have a wide door which can be raised to permit. And I really think we should change that word to opened, because some garages have doors that open out, or they're also starting some of these doors now that are on barn hinges and they can be slid open. So I think you're limiting the definition if you use the word raised. And I, for one, would like to see it changed to open.
Okay.
Let's see. Under item 98, setback. It's on page 22. Boy, I wish I would have made more notes on this, because I put a mark on it and now I can't remember. I think I had a question about like walks or sidewalks or walkways. I know it says that we can put fencing in the setback, but what about like a sidewalk? Because we're saying not limited, it says any structure including but not limited to decks, stairways, porches, or other attachments to a building are specifically prohibited. So in other words, if they had a stairway that was not connected to their building, it is okay. So I don't know if anybody else wants to address that, or Heidi? You just raise your hand a little bit, I'd be able to see you.
Any structure.
So my question is, basically, if someone puts some stairways in, as long as it's not attached to the building, it's okay?
Would that, like, you're talking about a stairway that would go up a hill or something that somebody might
Yeah,
want to?
right. Say it's on your say it's right next to your property line.
Yeah,
Or is it a non-issue?
I think it's a non-issue.
Kathleen?
It says specifically prohibited.
But it says, or other attachments to a building. So what I'm asking you is if someone puts in stairways, can it be within the setback? If it's not attached to their building?
May need to build it so it can be taken out.
Isn't there somewhere else though? It says what you cannot put in the setback. Right.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, when reviewing this definition, it says any structure including, but not limited to, and it discusses decks, stairways, porches, or other attachments to a building are specifically prohibited in the setback. But if you go to the next page on 23, it does discuss what a structure, we have a definition. And a structure means anything constructed or erected on the ground or which is attached to something located in the ground, including but not limited to buildings, radios, and TV towers, sheds, and permanent signs, and excluding fences. So I think those are some examples of what shouldn't be in the setback, but it can also be broadened based on what a structure is in the definition of structure. Or what we could do is just take out the word other and say any structure including but not limited to decks, stairways, porches, or attachments to a building that are specifically prohibited in the setback. And that might clean it up even more if you just take out other, because there are those things plus attachments to a building, and they can be attached or not, those first items.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, yep, we can take out other.
Yes, Cassidy?
I don't want to muddy any waters, but I'm wondering what your thoughts and feelings are about driveways that may not be your traditional driveway in terms of sand and gravel and material, but for instance, driveways for the homes on the slough on Bay Street along the old boardwalk, where the driveways go to the house are built out of, are essentially a structure. So how does the commission absorb that when considering this setback language?
I do believe, Cassidy, if my memory serves me correctly, I think the people that were in that area and that had a structure that you could consider a driveway going onto their building, I think they had to get, I'm not sure if it was a variance or they had to get an easement from the city. And I think there's one person in particular that I'm thinking of several years ago actually got I'm trying to think of whether he got a lease from the city for that property. And I'm trying to remember what his name is right now, and of course I can't. But it's on the side of the slough. where Bay Street is. Not, I think the Stranics actually got some kind of variance for their driveway to go so that they could drive right from Bay Street onto their property. And I think it seems to me, I remember it coming before the planning commission, 2 other cases where they had structures going onto their property. They got some kind of permission. I think one was from the city and the other one, or one was from the planning commission, but the other one was from the city because there's actually a legal document that I think was prepared so that he could have that access.
So now that we have a driveway permit, I don't mean to derail this conversation. But
No,
it involves setbacks and the language in the setback. And now that we have a driveway permit, would a structure where somebody is going from the right of way to their home or wanting to build off of that, is that a driveway or is that a structure in your opinion?
It's a structure, right?
I see it as a driveway.
But I mean, it could obstruct someone's view. So, I mean, if you're making a driveway, it's probably not gonna obstruct a view of anything. It could, if you're going from a right of way and turning, then you have to be able to see. And so if it was obstructing someone's view to see, you know, if you were going low, I have a really low car. So if someone built a driveway with rails and everything, and then I could properly see around a right of way, then that would be an obstruction to my view. While just a driveway is flat and just, you know, to the ground. So I mean,
I think all of these are basically flat. I can't think of any of them that have, I don't know, maybe some of them do have side rails. I haven't gone down there in a little while. Cedar's the one. I think Cedar, that house down there, I think that he has some kind of, and he has an easement from the city to build his driveway. And I think the city granted him that.
and I guess that would be something to think about because I mean, the city would be able to review it to make sure that it wasn't obstructing views of or safety or any other requirements. So, and there would be people who you could come into a meeting and speak why you felt that it was wrong. I mean, public would have a say.
What do you
Thank
think? What do you think we're correct in calling it a driveway or?
I feel like I feel that the permittance or the you know, people want to access their home through a pathway, whether it's made out of sand, gravel, cement, decking, that is, and the purpose of that specific structure is, in my head, a driveway. You're going to be driving over it to get to your egress or ingress of your home. So it as that, and it's just a unique situation with Bay Street and the boardwalk, because, you know, those are unique right-of-ways in our community.
Yes. So that we kind of got off the path a little bit. Oh, okay. So we're taking out the word other in setback.
Yep.
Right? And there's one other one that I want to discuss. And I know we agreed to make some changes to storage facility. But I guess what I wanted to know is what is considered personal property? I mean, is a boat considered personal property?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a boat or anything that's not real estate is personal property, I would think.
If you own it,
Kathleen?
Yeah, I would definitely agree because I mean, if the public can't use it, if it's your personal property, then
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it did include things like that. And actually, I'd like to take out, because we already have it in mini storage, because the mini storage facility is where you have access to your own personal unit that you can open and close a door. And whereas, since we're considering this a building or structure used for the renting or leasing of storage space to consumers for the purpose of storing and removing personal property. They don't necessarily have access the way you do in a mini storage. And so basically, I'd just like to take out who are to have access to such facility. And I'm sorry, I was writing. Any comments?
should work.
So any questions on the matrix? Do we need to go over the matrix at all?
I didn't have any questions on it. It looked good.
And I like the fact, Heidi, that you've got the keys at the top. It just makes it, you know, so much easier. And so the thought is, Chris thinks we should move this forward. Can we move this forward with just making those slight changes? Everybody feels good about that. We'll put it in motion form if you all feel good about it. Or someone make the motion and then we'll discuss it. Chris, you want to make the motion since you thought we should move it
I so
forward?
move. Word it whatever way you want to, but I move it.
Okay, he
Let's do it.
moves that we forward the ordinance draft Title 18 Land Use Matrix and Definitions to the council. You have a second?
I second.
Sec-
Any discussion? I think maybe we should just add to that. Let's amend the motion to add with the changes made this evening.
That's fine.
Okay. And second is in agreement.
I agree.
Any further discussion? And I can see you all and hear you all, but let's do a roll call vote, please.
Carluccio,
Yes.
Lathine,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Forsberg.
Yes.
Thank you. Your motion passes.
Thank you. And the next item is There's no commission business, so staff report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to report that I have sent out the notice for a public hearing for a variance that has been scheduled for the next regular planning meeting, June 3rd, 2020.
Okay, and hopefully we won't have to be doing a Zoom meeting for that, but in case we do, it would be helpful if the owner, whoever's requesting the variance could be available.
Yes, that's part of the reason why it was pushed into June instead of attempting to have it at this meeting, is because they wanted to be able to participate in person.
Okay. And informational items not requiring action, none. Comment to the public, no public available, so no comment, and comment to the commission. Chris?
No comments. Thank you very much for the work of the staff, but I'm glad to see we're moving on here.
Kathleen?
Thank you guys for keeping things running during everything. Thank you so much.
Roger?
Nice job. Everything looks good, I think, as far as this layout of the paperwork here.
Thank you. This was a very big job and a really big undertaking. And I'm sure that once it goes to council, they will have some questions, et cetera, but really fantastic job, Heidi. In spite of everything else that's going on, to keep your eyes on the ball, you really have to be thanked for that. And I'm doing so, and so are all the other commissioners. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is June 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. And hopefully it'll be in the multipurpose room. But with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
So ordered. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Maybe
You too.